Yeah, my project utilized the data set that we've been working with, all year or all semester. And I wanted to sort of examine one particular sort of industry or profession. So I looked at the Laund category, which was short for, it's kind of extrapolated to Laundress and Laundryman. And so I wanted to delve into that and examine race and gender demographics in laundry service jobs in Charlotte. And so I ended up finding 131. Um, this is all encompassed under the Laund abbreviation and Laundress and Laundryman. And then I analyzed this along with individual demographic data for race and gender. And the results I compared with similar data from the full data set to sort of show how it matched up with other jobs or other industries. And so I used OpenRefine, ChatGPT, and Tableau for this project. And the computational thinking practices, I probably need to expand on these, but mostly centered around creating data, manipulating data, analyzing data, and then visualizing data. And so to provide like a little more narrow glimpse into the project, basically looking at OpenRefine, I ended up finding 127 jobs and then had to do a few sort of cross-referencing and corrections with the initial record. And then after that, I was able to, I wanted to include a gender column to analyze that. And so in order to do that, I basically compared first names against data from the Social Security Administration, which listed about 200 of the most popular names for male and female babies born in the late 1800s. And so I was able to infer gender for most individuals from this list. There were several like unlisted names in that list. And for that, I used ChatGPT, which I'll get into later. And so after the data set was finalized, I put this into Tableau and basically sort of confirmed sort of what my initial sort of impression was that, it's predominantly industry full of Black women who made up 93.8% of the jobs in this industry. And then I did see about 6.2% of jobs held by white men. These were sort of the only two sort of categories of sort of the demographic in the data set. And there was one actual Chinese business owner, and I'll get into that much later, but he was under laundry, and this is documented in the business directory. And so, yeah, and I did do a little bit of additional research for anyone interested, and found that Buncombe County Special Collections did sort of a similar analysis of laundresses or washerwomen, which is another sort of term they were categorized under. And I guess in Asheville, 1890, this showed like a very, very heavily industry, where a lot of Black women had positions as laundresses and washerwomen. Also found a Washington Post article that sort of delves into the importance of washerwomen to the American labor movement. There was sort of a major strike, I think, at the end of the 1800s in Atlanta. And then I also included a link to a Home Laundry Hints book that's documented in the Library of Congress. And this is basically sort of, this is 1912, it was published, so it provides sort of a glimpse into what laundry work was like, at this period. And so major objectives for this is be going to OpenRefine to narrow the data set to the job specific sort of facets pertaining to laundry service jobs. And I'll be expanding the data set to include gender as an individual column. And then Tableau is going to be used to do the visualizations. So next, preparing job-specific data set in OpenRefine. For this, mainly used a just general text facet on the job column and reveal 1,056 unique jobs. And then scrolling down and using sort of the abbreviation list in a directory, I was able to find Laund, Laundress, and Laundryman as sort of the sort of representative job titles for this category. I did search washerwoman, but nothing appeared in the data set. From here, I wanted to sort of narrow in exclusively on these jobs, and I used this Grail expression. Value starts with on the to facet the job column, and so this returned 127 entries, and I was a little hesitant because looking at this list, I did see a couple of discrepancies, and that sort of led me to do a little bit of like cross-referencing with the original record. And so just to document a few of those interesting ones, I guess, one entry was a little comma that carried over, or an absent comma, sorry, that carried over during OCR, and sort of their name and their job title, Laund or Laundress, was included as part of the same name column. Also had to correct some like laundresses to Laund and laundryman to Laund. Also noticed a few individuals that had blank entries, so I added those 4 additional individuals to this data set. And then, as noted, there was one business owner, Charles H. Lee, and they were the only person to have laundry. Oh, there we go. Laundry as their profession. And so here, the one thing that sort of gave me cause for concern with corrections was I noticed that one individual, Letty Jones, would have been the only white individual with lawn as a job title. And so I went to the original record. I found that there might have been a printing error here. As you can see, it's indented and there's no asterisk, which would be indicative of them being Black. And so I wasn't really sure what to do with this. Luckily, I did do a little more research and searching in the record, and did find that they were also listed in the street directory. And here you can see that they are, there is an asterisk before their name. So then I just manually changed the data in OpenRefine. And so from this, I was able to sort of get the 131 individuals in the data set. I did some, expanding and capitalization of the abbreviations with the names, the male names. And that led me to do the following, and that is inferring gender from the Social Security Administration data and then also ChatGPT. So first, I kind of made an assumption that any laundress would be female, every laundryman would be male. I did the following Grail expressions to do those sort of transformations in a separate column. From here, I considered the long job title, which would be ambiguous, but noticing just how many names, at least that gave me the impression they were female, checked it against the Social Security Administration with the top 200 names. And so did a lot of cross-referencing here, just double checking first names against the first names here. I did use the 1890s sort of data set that on the Social Security Administration, assuming that anyone who'd be listed in the directory in 1911 Charlotte would probably have been born a decade or two prior. And so ultimately was able to find 93 individuals that sort of shared the names. And that just led me to about 18. I would look this down a little further after looking at the 1880s list. And so these were the names that did not appear in the top 200 for either of those lists. From there, I made a prompt inside ChatGPT and basically asked it to guess the gender based on the name and the naming conventions at the time. This returned basically everything female, as you can see here. I did ask it a couple times to make sure or just to test whether or not it would hallucinate or so how accurate or how consistent its guesses were. And each time it was pretty consistent. Um, so from here, I was able to convert the Laund, basically all the Laund category to female with value replace command. And this resulted in sort of the final data set that I was going to be using into using to input into Tableau. So from here, visualizing race and gender demographics, laundry service jobs, it was immediately apparent that there are only two categories along those like two axes of gender and race, and they were either Black women or white men. And it's predominantly an industry dominated by Black women. And so you can see here in Tableau, and a little further down, it breaks it down by the specific job category: laundry, laundryman, both white, lawn and laundresses, all Black. And so at this juncture, I wanted to mention that there was one business owner here under laundry, appeared in the business directory. And so I just wanted to mention that Charlotte may have been a little more sort of racially, a lot more diverse than our data set actually captures, because it really only has this binary Black and white, when it would indicate to me that there's at least a little more diversity with the Chinese business owner listed among the white men. So a little further down, to kind of like give me a good idea of how prominent Black women were in the laundress lawn category. But I wanted to sort of compare laundresses against sort of a larger data set of other jobs. And so from here, I kind of returned to the initial data set and 1,500 entries, uploaded this to OpenRefine. I made some changes, isolated first names, sort of elongated the abbreviations for jobs. And I also wanted to sort of narrow in on sort of the role of Black women in the laundress profession. So I excluded the 8 white men from that sort of grouping of data. And so this provided sort of a glimpse into how prominent laundresses were. As you can see, there are the 18th most popular job in Charlotte, 1911. Also, scroll down a little bit, figured that it's probably even higher than that, considering some of the redundancies in salesmen and traveling salesmen, or the broader categories of employee. Here it is broken down, or showing sort of the percentage of race in each profession: laborers, drivers, works or workers, porters, predominantly Black, and laundress would have been the 4th, most significant profession in that category. And so to sort of wrap this up and narrow it in on gender, I kind of double faceted the job titles and first names. And so kind of using this in sort of a loose method of comparing it to the Social Security Administration data, you can kind of get a sense of sort of how gendered each profession was. So you look at labor and you see the most common names: John, William, James, Charles. Porters, sort of similar. These are how many names appear. And then for female dominated jobs, stenographer, laundress, teacher, these were the most common. Mary, Annie, Eunice, Fanny, Carrie, Lula, Mary, these are highly gendered professions in 1911. And so just to wrap up, it kind of indicated to me just how important sort of these laundry service jobs were for Black women in Charlotte, 1911. um, and particularly, compared against other female jobs or just broader job categories. And so kind of looking forward to the future for anyone else that might want to pick up this, I think it might be beneficial to sort of apply some of the similar inferences of gender to sort of the broader data set to just get a little more accurate information. And so I think this is really valuable to sort of provide sort of good new context for telling stories of the people that lived and worked in Charlotte.